What you're about to hear is real. It happened in America, and once you know the truth, you won't see this story the same way again. No one noticed at first. That was the most disturbing part. The hospital sat on the edge of a mid-sized American city, serving working families, retirees, and people who didn't have many options. It wasn't famous. It wasn't brand new. It was the kind of place people trusted because it had always been there. Every morning, ambulances arrived. Nurses clocked in. Doctors reviewed charts. The routine felt normal. But over time, small details stopped lining up. It began with paperwork. A nurse named Emily noticed that certain patients were being moved unusually fast. Elderly patients with complications were transferred from the ER to a comfort care wing within hours. Their charts were thin. Their diagnoses were vague. The language was careful, never wrong, just incomplete. When Emily asked questions, she was told to focus on her tasks. Follow protocol, her supervisor said. The doctors have it handled. Weeks later, Emily attended a mandatory staff meeting. Administrators spoke about efficiency, bed availability, and outcomes. They praised the hospital's improved mortality statistics. No one explained how those numbers had improved. At 8:11 a.m. one Tuesday, an ambulance brought in a 72-year-old man with breathing problems. His oxygen levels were low, but stable. Emily watched as a doctor skimmed a chart, made a brief note, and ordered a transfer. Not to intensive care, to comfort care. The man asked what that meant. No one answered directly. He died that night. The death certificate listed natural causes. Emily started paying attention. She noticed that patients with complex conditions, those likely to require long stays, were quietly redirected. Families were told their loved ones were unlikely to recover. Treatment plans shifted from intervention to management, then to comfort, then to silence. What bothered Emily most was the timing. At 8:17 a.m., transfers increased. At 8:04 p.m., end-of-day reviews flagged expected outcomes. The language repeated itself across charts, like it had been copied. She began writing things down. Dates, times, names, decisions. When she compared notes with another nurse, she realized she wasn't alone. Others had noticed the same pattern, but no one wanted to speak openly. People needed their jobs. Some had families, some had student loans. Then a resident doctor quit without notice. He left behind an encrypted email that circulated quietly among staff. In it, he wrote that the hospital had adopted an internal scoring system, one not approved by the state. Patients were ranked by resource impact. Those with lower scores were less likely to receive aggressive treatment. It wasn't officially written anywhere, but it was followed. The hospital's public reports looked impressive. Lower mortality, shorter stays, higher efficiency. Insurance providers praised the results. Behind the scenes, families were being guided toward acceptance before real treatment was even attempted. At 2:43 a.m. one night, a woman named Karen arrived with her mother, who had collapsed at home. Karen begged for tests. She begged for time. The doctor told her gently that comfort might be the best option. Karen refused. She demanded a transfer. Suddenly, the tone changed. Paperwork slowed. Calls went unanswered. The transfer took hours. Her mother died before it happened. Karen later requested medical records. Portions were missing. When she tried to file a complaint, she was told the hospital had followed standard protocol. But which protocol? Emily reached out to a former quality control analyst who had left the hospital the previous year. He agreed to meet, but only in public. He explained that administrators were under pressure. Insurance reimbursements were declining. Long-term patients cost more than they brought in. Regulators focused on numbers, not narratives. So the hospital optimized the numbers. They never denied care. Outright, they reframed it. They guided decisions. They documented outcomes in ways that looked clean on paper. The analyst said something Emily never forgot. They didn't change how people died. They changed how deaths were counted. Emily sent an anonymous tip to a local reporter. Nothing happened. The reporter later told her that the story was too complex and legally risky. The hospital's lawyers were aggressive. The data was technically accurate. Families had signed consent forms. Doctors had discretion. No single rule had been broken. That was the Shield Montspasset. The hospital won an award for operational excellence. Then a federal audit. It wasn't announced. It wasn't public. But administrators grew tense. Meetings multiplied. Emails became cautious. At 8:04 a.m. one morning, a memo went out stating that the internal scoring system was being sunset. No explanation. A few weeks later, a senior administrator resigned for personal reasons. The hospital's numbers slowly returned to normal. No apology was issued. Families were never contacted. There were no headlines. Today, the hospital still operates. Most people who pass through its doors have no idea what happened during those years. Emily left nursing shortly after. She couldn't unsee what she had seen. She still keeps her notes, because one thing became clear to her. In modern systems, harm doesn't always look like cruelty. Sometimes it looks like efficiency. If stories like this matter to you, stories that don't break laws but break trust, subscribe to Dark Truth Stories and turn on the bell icon. More real American stories are coming, and some of them were never meant to be counted. Thanks for watching.